Hello, everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today, I'll be talking to Dawan Alford about Black mental health issues. So many people would not understand why this issue is so important that people revisit it and talk about it. Why so many more families need to speak up. We forget the Black man is our brother, our son, our father, our grandfather, and many, many more. But we forget that they have always been taught to stick up and not speak. It's been a difficult ride for many Black men, especially with this pandemic as well. They are struggling to speak up and to say what really bothers them, what mental challenges they're dealing with. Dawan will be talking to us about all these issues. Let me just give you a little bit about him. He's the founder of the Black Male Mental Health. He combines his unique skill through policy, cross-section activists, and non-profit leader to understand the issues surrounding this and how to tackle it. But what really makes him so unique is that he founded this Black mental health with the hope of providing a digital space to do free things, amplify Black stories, create safer space, and connect men to support men. I can't wait to speak to him because this is such an issue that we're so silent within our Black community. We don't talk about it. We don't talk much. We just assume they should be all right. Men should deal with this. It's not a big deal. You don't even see, and you watch movies, you don't hear about this because even society has not yet fully embraced the need and the urgency to tackle this seriousness. When you try and speak, when a Black man tries to speak, they always say to him, "Man up, boys don't cry." But really, is that what we should be telling our men? Well, meet Dawan. Let him talk to us about why he started the organization and how he's looking to help many more Black men come forward about the issue and how they're looking to tackle this critical problem affecting Black men. Meet Dawan. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation again with myself and Welsh. I think I find this topic so inspiring because it's a topic that a lot of us the Black communities, we don't really talk about probably because we're really shunned off from this topic. I have the one here with me. He's going to be talking about the Black mental health issue. He set up foundation where
Nonprofit.
it's a foundation, right?
A nonprofit. Yeah.
Non-profit organization. In UK we say charity, and it's just to really help and inspire people to get this message more out there. How are you, Dwan?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I am the founder of Black Male Mental Health, which is a digital resource platform, which has a really a three-pronged platform, right? We want three goals: is to um, amplify, create, and connect. And we want to amplify the voices and stories of Black men who are prioritizing their mental health,
Mm.
uh, and create spaces. We use this term safe space often in this line of work. We like to try to refer to it as a brave space because we want to encourage men to really be brave and bring their work to 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 their to the work essentially. And then there's a connecting component where we try our best to really think about the lack of color and people of color that are represented in the mental health field, and try to connect people to culturally competent medical practitioners. And it's just because in the therapy space, we find that a lot of Black men in particular typically don't see therapy as a benefit, mainly because
Mm.
they don't always feel like a connection between the therapist and their experiences. So we created this platform, and it really just started as an Instagram platform of just we have a hashtag that we use called "Show More Affection," and it's all about getting Black men to be more in tune affectionately and learn how to emote, right? Because a lot of times, since we're really really young, we are told very early, "Don't cry." Right, and that's the first kind of lesson we get taught about emotion is to mask it. So we encourage black male emotionality, and it's not in a way where it's hyper feminized,
Mm.
because some people will push back and say well, you're a part of this larger hidden agenda to feminize the Black male,
Mm.
and that's the very narrative that we are deconstructing, right?
Mm.
Really kind of breaking down those ideas that emotionality is parallel to weakness, or femininity, and to speak. But yeah,
No,
so that's what the platform is. It's growing tremendously, and I'm just really happy to see it. People drawing to it.
no, I'm so honored that you are doing this platform because I know, even out here in UK, London, for example, you very rarely get a Black man. I remember my father growing up, and my father would never ever show any kind of emotion or any kind of tears. And for him, it's always like, that's not what I should do. I've never ever, in fact, sometimes I feel like, do Black men even feel pain? That's what always went through my head. Do you guys even feel pain? Because I never see you guys cry. But going before we go into all of that, why, what went through your own experiences in life that led you to this path of wanting to set up this platform?
Oh man, I was one of those guys. I mastered the ability to. I mastered stoicism, right? So throughout my pain and the things that I experienced in my life, I mastered how to not show it, and I found myself as I grew, my relationships began to suffer because I didn't have the tools to connect emotionally at a certain level. So I began to do the work that needs to get. I call it the dirty work, right? Well, guys got to get to a space where they could do the dirty work, and really, it's about really kind of figuring out ways to uh, unravel unchecked traumas that we address in our lives, in our childhoods. So for me personally, I had to do some work kind of going back and thinking about my childhood, thinking about the experiences that made me want to not show, affection and emotion. And and the reason why I accepted this Zoom call with you is because it was through pain that taught me about how to respond to emotions. And I had to um, do two things. One, I had to really think about what were the survival tactics I implemented to serve as coping mechanisms. And then the second thing I had to do was practice new ways to replace them with things that weren't serving me in the current moment, right? So the things that I had adapted to for my survival were no longer serving me and my growth at this point. So I had to relearn and unlearn things that I was never ever taught. So I went on this journey, and it started with the birth of my daughter. I have a 10-year-old little girl who just brings out the absolute best in me. And I can remember, her falling, right? Like trying to teach her to ride her bike, and she fell down. And she got up and was like, I'm okay, daddy, I'm okay, I'm not gonna cry. And I was just like, she wanted to be tough for me. And
Mm.
I was like almost like trying to get that to come out of her. And I realized like, okay, this, this is part of it. And but growing up in urban spaces where you have to manage compounded trauma, we learn how to survive in spaces where suppressing emotions is beneficial because it doesn't make you be perceived as weak. So in a lot of ways, we, carry on those same traits and never learn the other end of the spectrum, which is really, really hard to do. And that's practice vulnerability, right? That's say, oh, I need some help. Oh, I'm not feeling well. How those are the things that Black men especially, don't practice. And practice is really what it's about, right? Like how can we create spaces where people can practice this thing so it's not just real time happening and you've never experienced how to go through that process, and then you may not be responding in the best way. So we try to, the platform is all about creating spaces where Black men can practice emoting. And I know that sounds really weird,
Mm.
but yeah, that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, I know you say something about Black men not feeling comfortable because, you know, it's almost like the people you have to see, the people you seek out for those help, don't tend to understand the community pain. So they go there and they're having this conversation with them, and the person is just like giving them advice that the book has told them. They go through the book, and the book has not incorporated what the Black pain actually is, what the community pain actually is. How are you changing that tone to make a Black man comfortable to go to places where they could have this conversation and come out of this conversation and feel really good about what was said, and how that conversation actually drew him back to what, more reality of where his own background is? How are you changing that narrative?
That's a great question because in this line of work, everyone's a smarty pants, right?
Mm,
Everyone's super clinical in their approach to how they talk about mental health. And I could talk about the science,
mhm,
uh, but I could also tell you that my mom and dad are drug addicts, and I grew up and I lost my best friend to gun violence, and and those kind of experiences oftentimes are more of a connecting piece than to um, find a way to diagnose people. And that's the thing. I'm not interested in. I'm not a doctor, right?
mm,
I don't have my degree in this field. So in a lot of ways, that's always how I start these conversations. Is this is an advice? I don't have advice to give you.
yes.
I can talk to you black man to black man, but I am not a doctor and I'm not authorized to give you any professional advice. And that's a challenge at times because a lot of people are, reaching out to our platform for advice, and I
Yes.
always have to kind of kind of defer and maybe say, well, I have a doctor in our directory that I can share with you. But I think that you would attest to this, and maybe this is a question that you I would like to hear your perspective on as well, right? Like it's something about experience
Mm,
that can sometimes be the best teacher. And I know far too many people who have all of the book knowledge and all of the clinical research
mm,
and cannot relate to the experiences of Black men. And actually, the first time when I was in therapy, I had a Asian woman,
mm,
and I remember sitting down, and she was like, "So tell me about your day." And my day was particularly rough that day because I had a presentation in my lecture. But on my way to the lecture, and the lecture was something about social constructs around inequalities. And on my way to class, I saw my dad sleeping on the bus stop, because he's like a homeless guy. So, and on my way to school, I see my dad. So now my spirit is down, and I have to
mm,
talk about these concepts.
mm,
But it was a lived experience for me that was most impactful. And I remember weaving that into my work and talking to the therapist, and the therapist saying, I don't even know what to say to you. I don't like she was honest, like I don't know what to say to you. And I was just like, well, this is a part of my life. And I realized at that point that there needed to be more spaces where I didn't just depend on doctors
mm,
to have these conversations that would be helpful. So we created these brave spaces, these conversations where I invited men
mm,
who often never share these kind of things that I'm sharing with you about their lives. And then we started to build each other up. And I realized like Black men are ready to do this work. We just don't have enough spaces that are encouraging us to be transparent and vulnerable. So, it just we went city to city creating these conversations right before COVID kind of slowed down our momentum.
Mm.
But we started to just invite men to be in the same space. And the healing was magical.
No, you're absolutely right because I would say the same because I have sickle cell anemia, and sickle cell is normally seen as a black disease. It's not something that other race totally understand. So I struggled growing up to try and explain it to the professionals and to tell them the pain I was going through, the pain I was feeling,
Mhm.
and also in it, there, if you don't have something in your community, how do you understand what I'm going through? So you could take me to all my therapists, you could take me to all the doctors. It was just impossible for me to get my message across about the mental health, the struggles I was dealing with from having the chronic illness. So when I joined the Sickle Cell UK Sickle Cell Society group, I felt relief because I felt other people like myself that actually felt this pain. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's not just me. I'm not an alien. I'm not invisible. So I feel the more we form our community and talk about it within our community, it makes such a huge difference in the way we grow. Because that, I'm not kidding you, that was what changed my perspective. I saw people who had the same illness with me, but they would come for board meeting and they would come from work. But in my mind, I always thought, oh, I can't work, I can't do this, I can't do. But when I saw my other counterpart doing it, I thought, oh, okay, so it's doable. So that gave me hope that I could do this. Why my doctors would just assume because they would see the criticalness of the illness, they would say, you know what, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can't do this, but who's going to feed me then? Who's going to feed my kids?
Can I
So
ask you what age were you diagnosed, and did you have any problems with trying to get doctors to understand that you were actually hurting? Or did they dismiss your pain in any way? Was that difficult in getting a diagnosis?
I was diagnosed. My mom said I was diagnosed early at 6 months old.
Okay, at birth.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's like something, it's been with me for as long as I know myself. But it's always been challenging. It depends what hospital you're in. It depends what part of the world you're in. It's always been difficult to try and communicate that message to someone to say, "Oh yes, you are in pain," especially because it's an invisible illness. I could be like this and I will be in pain,
Okay.
and you will have no idea until you take my blood out, and you're like, "Oh gosh, how come you're still smiling?" That brings me back to that mental health with Black men, because I think even with the chronic illness with sickle cell, you see a lot of Black men who are trying so hard because they want to prove it to their family that they could actually support the family, they could do this. So they're trying hard, and then sometimes they try hard and they try and they succeed at it, and sometimes they try in vain. Do you find there's a discrimination between the Black men having that communication compared to with other race having that communication about being openly talking about mental health issues?
Oh man, you got to think about this. If we look at the statistics, I think that suicide is the third leading cause of death in Black men.
Mm.
Like 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 between the ages of I think 16 to 24. And I should have a fact checker up right now, but I'm just
It,
kind of
no,
comfortable
yeah.
chatting with you, and I just hope that I
It's
can.
just a general chat,
Right.
yes.
Um, yeah. So to think about the environmental stressors first, right? We have to really think about the structural impact of of the way Black men are kind of brought up through this system at a very young age, right? They are um, over penalized in school, and often that lead to the school to prison pipeline, and they're over policed in their communities, and they are a lot of people are a little younger, adults now are pretty much the generation impacted deeply by the crack epidemic, right, of the 80s. And at least my generation, a lot of people I know. have seen a systemic disinvestment, a systemic over policing, a systemic um, devaluing in the educational space, and this like plethora of, of, uh, of adversities essentially that are, um, and then Black men have to be the providers and be examples still. And I think that overall Black men are just really don't have the space to to um, to share and to soften and to learn how to kind of go through and express the things that they're feeling. And I think that the real revolution of our race as people of color, of African American people throughout the diaspora, is really rooted in Black men. And I think we're there. I think that we're in the beginning of seeing this new way of being, right? Like this girl dad movement, this, and even research kind of reflecting that, men of color are in their lives significantly more than the narrative that's been kind of portrayed around Black fathers not being present. Some research came out that shows that Black dads are in fact extremely engaged in their children's lives. So I think we're in that space right now of rewriting and kind of flipping the narrative on its head around what Black men, who we are, and how we're perceived. And for us to have a Black woman in the United States vice president, um, kind of speaks to, in a lot of ways, a new era. I feel like Black men especially, are learning the value of, of, of emotionality.
That's true. I also feel that with the community, we could probably play a more role by incorporating the normality that is okay for a black man to speak, or okay for a black man to show a little bit of emotion if they have to, because you never know what they might go through. So the community, by putting it through the local movies or international movies, whatever we're doing, we just try and incorporate a little bit of it, and that shows the rest of the world that it's okay, that you're not doing a bad thing. On a final note, on our final question, is all about what advice would you give to a black man who's going through, because COVID has really affected a lot of people through their finances, jobs, especially black men in particular, because they have been doing things and all of a sudden that's taken away from you. What advice would you give to anyone who's going through that difficult time, and how would you find your peace and you just get yourself out of that pain you're going through? What would you say?
So I don't give advice, right? So that's one thing I always kind of say is like, this isn't, I don't have any professional advice to offer. I think that what I can do is share what I think
Yeah.
is smart to do. And for me, it's really about, when you find yourself in these spaces, is to go inward, right? Like, don't look for any external validation, just go inward. And by that, I mean, um, you know, be still, be still. I think stillness is such a healing process in itself. Stillness is just really, really healing in itself. And seek therapy or professional support. um, uh, Therapy changed my life, and it's something that, especially when I got a black male therapist, and that really changed my life. And I saw the value in having someone who connected to my experiences be able to offer me some insight as to how to be well. And also, it's okay to not be okay, right? Like, I think that some people really are hard on themselves when they don't feel okay. We should expect that life is going to throw problems at us, and we're going to be, have our ups and downs. Is to not get too low and not get too high. Try to, stay even keel. But unfortunately, that's not life. Life hits us with things that are hard, and I think that when we accept that things are hard, right? The only problem is when people think that having problems is a problem, right? Like, problems come, and we have to be okay with and we have to find support systems that can be there for us, professionally, in therapy and therapists, and also just creating your tribe, right? Having a couple of people you can call, and men need to find other men that they can practice
Mm.
being open and honest with, because sometimes we just we don't get that from women all the time. And my last point is for the women. I like to try to give women advice as well.
Thank you.
Um, and
That's
no, not advice, but just
yeah.
just my personal opinion is men in your life, when you ask them, how are you? Yeah, it's just not enough. And after they say, yeah, I'm okay, I'm just dealing with how's your heart? Follow up with that question. See what happens. Or follow up with this question, how are you really? And
Mm.
it's like, you you really want to know? And then like make time and make space for them to be able to share. And I think that you'll get a little bit more out of
I love that because I have a 11-year-old son, and when I talk to him, and he always says, "I'm good." I'm
it.
like,
I'm good.
I'm like, Connor, please, no good. Just tell me, what did you really do today? How are you? Did you enjoy your lesson? So I really try my best to really sit with him and really talk deep with him. And I love that you said that message because it's true. It's so easy to just say, take the good, answer good, and say, well, he's responded. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But now I really try and dig deep and not just answer good. And if he's not even willing to give me more than good, I actually write to the teacher and say, he just said good. Could you help me elaborate what good means? So I think you are right. We women also could play a big effort into making Black men, speak up because it's not something they're naturally used to doing, and helping them in that overcoming that progress. So anyone who's looking to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you to understand more about this critical issue affecting Black men?
Well, you can follow our Instagram page at Black Male Mental Health. And we are in the process of creating a directory where if people want to find male therapists of color, we have probably one of the most comprehensive directories being built out right now. And I haven't done enough research around therapists in the UK. And so maybe this can be the beginning of extending that directory internationally.
Yeah.
Um, and it should be going live sometime next month. In a couple of weeks, we are still scanning the nation to try to find out the top professionals to be a part of our directory. But for the most part, Black Male Mental Health on Instagram is our primary contact, and at Gmail for emails. But and very soon we'll have a website up with the directory active so people can find support.
Wow, thank you so much, Dawan, about talking about this critical issue. I really hope to stay in touch with you to understand how this is going and how we can incorporate it in the UK, because I'm not just in America that this is a critical issue. It's also a big issue here. And to get the Black community more talking, more engaging, especially with the pandemic. A lot of the people I've met, so many people that are just going through a bad time right now, and they just need someone to speak to, on people that really understand them. I really think this message comes across so anyone who listens will understand the little steps to take to make your life just that one step better. Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to chatting to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Your spirit is really, really kind. So thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
wish you wellness.
Thank you too. Thank you.